Hello all, today we are going to discuss about a very important report, that is a SIPRI report on defense imports and exports. This SIPRI stands for Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, and this organization gives an annual report about the past 5-year trends in arms import and export. And this report very clearly states that Ukraine has been the world's largest importer of weapons or defense equipment, whereas India stands second in the defense imports. Whereas when it comes to the defense exporters, USA stands as the largest defense exporter of the world with nearly 43% of the global arms exports coming from USA. Then thereafter comes France, that is at the second place with 9.86% of global arms exports. And after that comes the country of Russia, which constitutes nearly 7.8% of global arms exports. So, rather than just looking at the figures, if we try to analyze what is the underlying logic here, then it would make more sense to us. If we look at it, Ukraine is fighting a war with Russia for the past 3 years, because of which reason, and naturally, it is the world's largest importer of weapons. That too, most of its weapons come from the Western nations, particularly USA. Then along with that, the European allies also had supplied weapons to Ukraine. But India, a country which has not fought any serious war for the past 25 years. So Kargil is one of the important skirmish which happened between India and Pakistan. We cannot call it a full-fledged war, but even though we did not fight any war over the past 35 years, why are we arming ourselves? Why are we the world's second largest defense importer? This leads us to the conclusion that India is living in an environment which is a challenging environment, and many of our neighbors are sworn enemies to India and have numerous boundary disputes with India. Because of which reason only we are the world's second largest importer of defense equipment. Then over and above that, India is also part of the Indo-Pacific region. Indo-Pacific region is considered to be the world's next major theater of conflict. And in the Indo-Pacific, if we observe, in the region of Asia and the Oceania region, which form or which constitute the Indo-Pacific, we can see that out of the 10 major defense importers of the world, 4 come from this region. That is Japan, Australia, India and Pakistan are the 4 nations in this region, so which in fact constitute the top 10 defense importers of the world. So this clearly shows that India is in a highly conflict-prone environment, and along with that, it also clearly shows that the projects for indigenization of defense manufacturing in India did not bear fruit. Because of which reason only we are still essentially dependent on import of weapons. And if we observe this very clearly, China, a country which from 1992 till date was always among the top 10 defense importers of the world, it has slipped out from this list, and it is one of the 5 major nations of defense export to the world. And if you look at the Indian situation, India is second in imports, and nearly its rank in defense exports is somewhere nearby to 25, sir. Which clearly shows that our project of defense indigenization and defense export did not bear fruit, because of which reason even today we are critically dependent on the import of weapons. Then over and above that, the recent statement by the Indian military also that they don't believe or trust in the domestic manufacturing, that to the manufacturing which is done by the public sector enterprises, clearly shows a lack of trust of the military on the defense producers in India. Then over and above this, one more important thing that we need to understand is, if we look at the finer detail of the SIPRI report, it clearly states that India is definitely diversifying its import of weapons. Earlier, Russia used to constitute nearly 3/4 of the total defense imports into India. In the year 2000 also, we were importing nearly 72% of our defense equipment from Russia, because Russia was always a reliable partner for India, and it never denied us access to spare parts during the time of conflict, because of which reason we were dependent on Russia. But today, what has happened is our defense imports have become diversified, and we only import nearly 33% or 36% of our defense requirements from Russia, whereas France has marched ahead and it is the second largest, or we are importing defense equipment from France, particularly because of the Rafale deal, the Scorpion class submarine deal. Because of all these factors, France has become one of the important supplier of defense equipment to India. And over and above that, one more important fact that we can see from the SIPRI report is, SIPRI report very clearly states that Pakistan is importing nearly 81% of its defense equipment requirement from China, which clearly shows that there is a strategic embrace between China and Pakistan. So, and the real threat of a true front war is very clear. So that is the reason why we can observe that China and Pakistan are growing much closer to each other. And in the diversified basket of import of weapons, we are also importing the weapons from USA, and along with USA, we are also importing weapons from Israel. So all of these things needs to be considered. Then over and above this, the SIPRI report very clearly states that Europe has increased its arms imports by nearly 155% over the past year. So it is nearly 1.5 times the earlier imports, and the reason for this increased imports of Europe is because USA is moving away from its global responsibilities. Its security umbrella over Europe is far receding, because of which reason the European countries are in fact arming themselves, and we are definitely moving towards a world where every nation is going to or has to take care of itself, because of which reason the defense imports, defense trade is definitely increasing. Because the global institutions are declining, the global superpowers are moving away from their responsibilities, and all of these things show that the world is in transition. And whenever there is a transition in the world, definitely the countries should arm themselves completely, because in the world of transition, conflict is a natural outcome. Thank you.
కాంపిటేటివ్ ఎగ్జామ్ సంబంధించి ప్రత్యేకంగా సివిల్ సర్వీసెస్ ఎగ్జామ్ సంబంధించి ఏ ఆప్షన్ చూస్ చేసుకోవాలి, ప్రిపరేషన్ ఎప్పుడు స్టార్ట్ చేయాలి, ఏ బుక్స్ రిఫర్ చేయాలి, ఇలాంటి డౌట్స్ ఉంటే CSBIS అకాడమీని కాంటాక్ట్ అవ్వచ్చు. దీనికి సంబంధించి నా పర్సనల్ అపాయింట్మెంట్ ఈ వీడియో పైన డిస్ప్లే అవుతున్న కాంటాక్ట్ నెంబర్కి ఫోన్ చేసి తీసుకోవచ్చు.